Hello, good evening, and welcome to Monkeys with Fire. Hope everyone's well and all is getting ready for the weekend. So we are concluding our exploration this week of Best Left Buried from Soul Muppet Publishing. During the course of Tuesday and Wednesday, we've looked at the first two books, and tonight we are going to conclude with The Hunter's Guide to Monsters. I met Soul Muppet Publishing during the UK Games Expo, which was a fantastic opportunity to meet up with independent designers and smaller publishers to see the types of games that are on offer. And this has been a fantastic game to discover. So my thanks to Soul Muppet Publishing for providing the books to take a look at this week. As I always preface these live shows, I'm no RPG expert. I played tabletop role-playing games back in my college days, took a long break, as many of us do, whilst I was working, and over the past couple of years I've been getting back into the scene. So if you have any questions, please do leave them in the comments or leave it in the chat, and I will do my best to answer them for you. Alright, let's go to the table then. So, as I say, we have been looking through this collection of books. On Tuesday evening, we looked through the Cryptdiggers Guide to Survival. Last night, we explored the Doomsayer's Guide to Horror. And this evening, we are going to be looking at the Hunter's Guide to Monsters. Let's take a look at the back. Here we go. Best Left Buried is a rules-light fantasy horror role-playing game where the monsters are scary and you are scared. Players are Cryptdiggers, professional dungeon divers who venture into monster-infested crypts seeking riches. Survivors might find themselves richer, but they will be changed by their experience. They are often broken, beaten, and diminished, as ruined as the crypts themselves. The Doomsayer guides them on this journey, a referee who creates the threatening environments, cryptic puzzles, and terrifying monsters the Cryptdiggers face. This Doomsayer-facing book contains guidelines and procedures for creating and using monsters, including Monster Mythology, monster templates, and a sizable bestiary. It also includes new adaptations and rules for creating monstrous treasures from monster corpses. So tonight it's all about the monsters. And I'm kind of hoping that as we explore, we will maybe do a little bit of combat. We'll give it a go, so I can show you just how easy these rules are. Now, to make things easy for me, we're going to switch to the PDF. You do have the option when you go on to the Soul Muppet Publishing to be able to purchase both the book and the PDF, or just the PDF on its own, and it's at a very reasonable price. So the links to the Soul Muppet Publishing website is in the video description down below. So let's go and get this started. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to move these to one side, and we'll bring in the dice tray, because I'm bound to roll some bones during the course of this evening. Okay, so here we go then. Of course, as with any game, there are a number of people who bring these games to life, and we want to give them some credit. So, writing by Zachary Cox and Nicholas Spence, and the artwork by Ben Brown, amongst others there. And so, as we have just learnt, Best Left Buried is often a game of survival horror, not just of surviving once, but continually. Over time, your grip is shredded, your body gathers injuries and afflictions as you repeatedly delve the crypt, confronting and mastering horror before descending into the dark to discover another. In Best Left Buried, the most common horror is the monster. This is your monster manual. And having spent my time now with the game, I really am liking this idea of building up these afflictions and injuries and how you can role play them with the group. So we have our chapters, creating and running monsters, mainstay monsters, which is subsplit into returning monsters and monster mythology. A menagerie of moods, adaptation library, beasts of the crypt, mishappen magic, and monster crafting. And so it's given us a little bit of an introduction here. Difficulty is in Best Left Buried. Survival horror games face two conflicting goals. Difficult challenges prevent success in the crypt. Solutions are possible, otherwise it's not fun. The cost of survival are most interesting when overcoming horror is difficult but not excessively so. This balance is different for every group. With all RPG matters, discuss it collectively, determining the best solution. I don't know, I mean, again, I suppose it depends on how you like to play. I guess that's the conversation, isn't it? Maybe your players just want to go through the dungeon, hacking and slashing their way through. But from what I've seen of this game, your player characters are a little bit squishy. You might want to actually create a couple of characters, because the way that the game is said is that actually, there's a large company. It's a professional outfit waiting outside the crypt, going on in shifts near enough. So the notion of being able to call up some reserves actually is quite possible. Good evening, Roger. Thanks for joining. We're just getting started. So, imagining monsters. So we've got two perspectives from the gameplay or narrative. So, what fear or horror do you want this monster to explore? What kind of challenge does it present? Have you imagined a cool visual? There are some new ways to ravage the Cryptdiggers. Is there a scenario you want to see played out? Oh, okay. But then from a narrative perspective, what is the Crypt's apex predator, and how does it maintain dominance? What new arrivals infest the crypt? How have they altered its balance? Which physical attributes are necessary to dwelling here? Who might use this place as a base or exploit its resources? And what learned behaviours are adaptive here? So, when we looked last night, piecing together a monster is different elements, and you basically make a concoction of these to create a unique monster, even though it does have a lot of suggestions for you. But I thought it was quite neat that you really are making a monster of your own design. And it's giving us some suggestions on visuals. I don't know. I mean, of course, these visuals can be a narrative side to it. Just to describe to your players. There again, maybe you're good at art. Maybe you can sketch elements out. I think that might be quite cool. Certainly with some of these mashed up monsters that you can create. What do you reckon, Roger? Would you describe your monster, or would you have a go at drawing it? So we do have to select adaptations that are going to be suitable. So choosing adaptations for your monster which provide an interesting play experience and reflect the monster's narrative or image. And it gives us some rules on creating unique adaptations if none of the ones that are within the game are suitable. But I think it does offer a good selection. So you'd have to have something quite unusual, I think, to go and have to create one yourself. Talks a little bit about monster psychology. So moving beyond just it being a mindless beast for the players to kill. Why is the monster there? What's it doing? How does it react to people invading its space? As it says, how does it need to fulfill basic needs such as food, shelter, and companionship? Or does it even possess these needs? So trying to make your monster more three-dimensional, because the more that you put into the monster's design, you make it more real to the players, and if it's more real, it's more threatening. It's not something that they can just easily dispatch and not think about. And of course, the good thing about a really memorable monster is you will, of course, remember it. You will regale tales in the pub for years to come. Do you remember that time we faced? I've just been watching the new Alien movie trailer, and of course the Alien is an iconic monster that people remember. We can remember all the key elements of that particular monster. We know why it scares us. We know why it's a threat to us. It's quite an interesting design. Rogue is saying the monster may be mean because it's just protecting its young. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, it could be quite simple as that, couldn't it? It could be a alien queen. So, as we touched upon last night in the horror book, Omens. These are signs and traces the monster leaves around and within the crypt, its lasting environmental impact granting it a sense of place. To be used and interpreted by clever parties to gain insight into the monster's nature and capabilities. So that's something that could be quite cool to include. So maybe the monster has some kind of scratching post. Maybe we know then that it has big claws, because we've seen where it's been shredding these huge wooden beams to pieces. Maybe a scratching post also means that some of its old scales are loosened and dropped to the ground, and that being the case, we know that it has a scaly hide. Maybe it leaves slime behind. Yes, absolutely. So these are all little clues that you can find out about the monster before you even encounter it. And of course, that adds to the anticipation, doesn't it? I guess that's the thing here, isn't it? Is maybe it's good that the monster is not something that is necessarily, you don't necessarily have a visual for it, but it's all down to description, or it's all down to imagination. The moment you show a visual, it kind of, I suppose it becomes less threatening because, again, you can see it. But having it in your imagination, that makes it a lot scarier. So, moods. These are generalized expression of what the monster is feeling or doing. Also demonstrating not all monster encounters begin or end with violence. Indeed, multiple encounters without violence may heighten the tension when violence breaks out. So that's quite a nice idea. Maybe it's something like you can hear the monster before you see it. Maybe you orchestrate an encounter so that the players hide before and don't actually see it and just see its feet walking past. So the suspense leading up to the monster may be more scary than seeing the monster. Yes, absolutely. Okay, we do have a roll table here. Let's roll some dice. Let's use these. We're going to do black for the first number, red for the second. Let's spice up our monster. Well, that's nice and easy. That's 1, 2. So the monster has a symbiotic creatures living on it that aid it in battle. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. What could they be? Could they be? I mean, well, some birds. Some birds pick out the leftover meat in, is it alligators' mouths? So maybe this kind of has some kind of flying creature that has a similar type of relationship. And of course, if their source of food is that monster going and killing, so if someone's trying to kill it, they're going to want to defend it, aren't they? That's interesting. Let's roll another one. Let's see what else we can get. 24 or 2-4 produces its voice in a very unusual way, such as bodily vents. Different. Let's go for another. 43. Prioritizes a certain type of prey. Right. Okay. So there's quite a few different selections there. Oh, that's an interesting one. 5-6 was once a crypt digger, but the crypt warped beyond recognition. Interesting and different. Okay, so we have some interesting artwork. Lots of eyes. Okay, so in the crypt there are some types of foe that appear again and again. If poorly managed, these classic enemies can become tiring, risking becoming a horde of expendable enemies or cookie-cutter stereotypes. The tools in this chapter provide some random tables and a fresh stat blocks to present interesting and varied versions of these timeless adversaries. Alright, let's see what they have on offer. What do we have? Brigands, fighters, and thieves. So we get a little bit of a description. We can roll for the type of mood this band of brigands are in. It gives us some suggested adaptations that would make them unique. And it gives us a selection of omens, something that we can tease the players with before we encounter them. What else? Because it is a 2-page on each of these. So we have a selection of names, and then we have some goals for this band. Let's roll. Let's see what we get. So first of all, let's see what kind of mood this group of fighters and thieves are in. That's a 5. Ambushers, they are laying in wait for some hapless crypt diggers to wander past. Maybe they're hoping that we have already got the treasure and they're going to steal it from us. What might have warned us? Maybe we've seen an omen before. 4. Yells, laughter, hobnailed boots in the scattered rhythm. So they're kind of a bit dumb. They alerted us to their presence before we even got to where the ambush was. Okay, I like that. We'll give them a name. Who are they going to be? 2. The Keen Reavers. Okay. And what was their goal? Was to try and steal, wasn't it? 3. Bring down the local tyrant. Okay. Interesting. But they were definitely trying to steal from us first. So maybe they're not so bad. Maybe we could negotiate with them. Maybe we could help. Okay, that's interesting. We do have then some stat blocks. So we can choose from these. Mix them up a little bit. What do we have? Grunts, lurkers, foe cleavers, duelists, phalanx, and a grand master. And as you can see, these get progressively harder and more advanced levels. So a grunt has got armor of 8, a vigor of 6, grip of 2, with a brawn of +1, wit of 0, will of 0, carrying a hand weapon, and wearing basic armor. And that's much like, let's just click on this, our character sheet. So I put together a character earlier today. It took probably all of about 5-10 minutes. I spent most of that time trying to work out a name for the character. The actual putting the stats in, giving it its equipment and weapons, absolutely just shot through. So easy. So if you recall from the show where we looked at the Cryptdiggers guide, basically we have 3 attributes: brawn, wit, and will. And we have a +2, a +1, and a 0, which we allocate as we see fit. But it's worth bearing in mind that our vigor is 6 plus our brawn, whereas our grip is 4 plus our will. So you might want to consider where you put your +1 and +2 if you wanted to boost up those values. We decided to go for the outcast because wanting to have that sort of ranger type of character, which gave us basic armor. So we have an armor value of 8. We have standard equipment with 3 additional items. So I took the hooded lantern, a crowbar, and a set of lockpicks. And then for weapons, I'm just using 2 of the weapon slots. I took a short sword, which is a light weapon. It's melee. It uses wit, which we have a +1 on that. But our damage modifier is a -1. So when we roll for our damage die, it's -1 on it. But using a short sword doesn't alter our initiative in combat. And then we also decided to go for a crossbow, which is a ranged weapon, ideal at long range, using our wit. So again, we have a +1 on it. So that's why I favoured the short sword to maximise our wit bonus. And there is no change to our damage or initiative. It's really easy. Really easy. And so hence, this is why you could potentially make up a couple of these characters just in case they bite the dust during the course of an exploration, is you can bring in the next one. It's not a case of getting too comfortable with your characters. I think some of them will die relatively quickly. But also, by the same token, if they manage to get through, then of course you're going to be able to improve your advancements. We had Marksman's Aim, so I can use an action in a turn to prepare. Then following turn, I can attack with the upper hand, which gives me an extra d6, and I ignore any penalties from obstructions or cover because I've lined my shot up. So we're going to be pretty good with our crossbow. I like that. Okay, let's go through, because we've got quite a few. And again, as it said, these are the kind of mainstay monsters or denizens that we might meet in a crypt. We've got our cultists, wizards, priests, and acolytes. A little bit more detail on these. Goblins. Always got to have some goblins. Oh gosh. And we do have different hybrids. Let's roll for a hybrid. See what we get. A 1. Oh, typical spider eaters. So they have petrifying gaze and spider climbing. Oh gosh, these are goblins that can climb up on the roof and the sides of cavern walls. Yeah, don't like it. We have some spells that they might have. We don't have any omens, though. That's a shame. I would have liked to have seen some goblin omens. Why does it have to be spiders? Yeah, tell me about it. Yes. So we got a variety of different goblins. Oh, here we go. Great beasts. Oh, let's roll an omen on a great beast. That's a 4. Deep predatory rumbles, deafening roars, shuddering thunderous steps. Yep, that says a great beast to me. Oh, let's do some rumours. Do we have a D12? I think I do. There we go. That's a 4. An earthquake announced the beast's arrival. So maybe this beast comes from subterranean, below the ground. It's come on up and out. What do we have? Basilisks, trolls, giants, chimeras, phoenix, drake. I do seem to like 4s tonight, don't I? And we have quite a number of adaptations here. Let's roll again. What's that? 6-5. 6-5. Wind up smash. So we'd have to go and check the adaptations to see what that one is. The undead. We can roll for the species of the dead. Up against a zombie. Okay, so let's try this. I did say we would have a go. Let's see. We just need to go over here. So then, playing the game, combat. Divided into rounds. Determined by our initiative. Okay, so determine a round's initiative order. Each creature rolls a d3 their wit. With any weapon, advancement, or adaptation modifiers. Alright, so what's our wit? We get a +1 to it. What does a undead get? It gets a -1. So this is a d3. So if you remember, 1 and a 2 is a 1. 2 so 3 and a 4 is a 2. 5 and a 6 is a 3. Alright, so we'll roll the black dice for us. We'll roll the red dice for the zombie to see who goes first. We have a +1. Oh gosh, the zombie has a -1. So the dumbest zombie in the crypt still gets the jump on us. We are so rubbish. Okay, so it's going to be using its hand weapon. 4 again, yes. So it's going to attack. Okay, here are the rules for attacking. So attack, you roll 3d6. You're trying to exceed the target's armor by adding any 2 of the dice to the weapon's attack stat. The attack scores a hit and deals damage as described below, but let's go take a look. So our armor is 8. So the zombie is trying to score 8 on 2 dice, and what is left is going to be the amount of damage that the zombie inflicts. And what weapon did it say it had? It has a hand weapon. So that's going to be a, let's just say it's a short sword. Let's keep it the same as us. So in other words, its damage is going to have a -1 modifier to it. Alright. Let's give this a go. Well, if we're saying it's going to have a short sword, it's going to be using its wit, isn't it? So it's going to have -1 on its wit. It's going to be, so it's -1 against the 2 dice, and in fact, actually, it's -2, isn't it? Because it's got a damage modifier. Oh, so it's -1 against the damage. So let's roll this and let's find out. So I'm going to do this. Oh, I have to do all 3 dice together, don't I? It's 8 to hit us. It's got to get over our armor. Our armor is 8. Ah, well, we already know that that's not going to work. It's got a few 1s in there. So, even as it stands, we couldn't do it. It's completely missed. So even though it's lurched out of the shadows, it's totally failed, because no matter what combination of 2 dice we do here, we cannot get over 8. Alright, let us try. So again, we are going to have 3 dice. We are using our short sword. Gives us a -1 to the damage, but we have a +1 on our wit. So that's going to certainly help. And we have to get over 7. 7 is the zombie's armor. So here we go. Okay, well, we've done it. So there is 6, with our +1 is 7. So we've hit the zombie. The last dice that we have, and of course they're all the same, so it's the best of examples, isn't it, is a 3. But because we are using a short sword, our damage is a modifier of -1. So we only do 2 damage against it. Okay, it's got a vigor of 9. So it has now come down to 7. And pretty much, we would just keep going like that. Now, I think that once you've done 1 round, everybody's done a round, you then roll for initiative again. So we might get in ahead of it and do another swing before it musters itself to swing at us. Let's imagine that that's the case. Well, it depends how you roll. Let's roll another one and see how we do. Ah, here we go. This is a bit better. We have some better results here. So we need to get over. We need to get over 7 for the armor, right? We do have a +1, so we could use the 2 5s to get over the 7, because the 6 is the one that we use for damage. If we did it the other way around, we would have the 5 for damage with the -1, and that would give us a 4, wouldn't it? Because remember, we've always got to, because we've got our short sword, we're going to always have a -1 on a damage. But ideally, what you want to do is leave the highest dice to basically do your damage, and use the other 2, the lowest 2, to hit the target. But of course, depending on how you roll, you might have to use the highest dice just to be able to hit. So we're not far off from felling this zombie. I feel like we might have taken both of its arms off and taken a chunk out of its torso, but it's still shambling on ever so slowly now. So maybe we just need one good final blow and that would be it. I like the combat. I think that's a really cool system. It means that things are just very, very fast, very easy. You're not having to spend round after round after round defeating these creatures, depending, of course, on the size of your party and how many you're facing. We're just facing one zombie here, aren't we? Maybe there might be 3 or 4. Though, of course, another idea would be that maybe we would be controlling 2 or 3 party members each, knowing how squishy they might be. And that being the case, we could maybe make short work of these. The skeleton would be down, it would, yes. Yes, but the skeleton actually has a 1 in its wit. So it might have got the jump on us. And we've not looked into the adaptations that these monsters actually have. So we'd have to refer to the book, and we could potentially be using those as well. Alright, let's continue. We got a Lich and the Unmartyred. We have some wizards. Necromancers. Hex-tongued. Elementalists. We haven't really looked too much into magic, have we? We've kind of skipped that a little bit. And a nice piece of artwork here. Is that a magic user summoning a mighty bear? You like the way that the combat works? Yeah, I do. It's an interesting method. And again, really easy and very quick. So, Beyonders, things from beyond space and time. So this is where it's all going a bit Cthulhu-esque. Dreaming ancients, the thousand-eyed giant, the primordial ooze, the vast one, the ever-slain, the king of horizons. Yes. Oh gosh. Can you see how the vigor has suddenly shot right up on these monsters? We're starting with one at 25. Valley of Eyes has a vigor of 50. Can you imagine how many consequences our poor character might be taking if it was to survive an encounter? And this is where your characters potentially leave the crypt incredibly battered. You know, they have seen the unseeable. And that then, of course, gives you plenty of great opportunities to role-play these aspects, because no matter how much they're beaten with all of this trauma, they keep on going back for more until they don't. Something I probably want to actually experiment with a little bit. I think that could be fun in a very dark sort of way. And of course, this kind of highlights the warning that the games have had at the beginning on the fact of the trauma that your characters are going to be facing. Celestials, angels, saints, creatures of supernatural good or lore. Oh my goodness. So, God sent. We got moods, adaptations. Now, you would need a group to go up against these. Yes, you would. Yes. But again, I think that, you know, because your characters are so quick to put together, you could quite easily be controlling 3 characters each. There was a section in the Cryptdiggers guide about ganging up against monsters. So maybe it's a case of using multiple characters to achieve the objective. And I think that this could be an interesting game, doing it solo, maybe. I think you could probably adapt it slightly. It'd be very much a combat-orientated experience. A little bit like, I was thinking of video games that I have played. I'm sort of thinking of Diablo and Dungeon Siege, those type of hack-and-slash adventure games in the dungeon, where you're controlling a little party. Cinder beasts. Devils, demons, creatures of supernatural evil or chaos. We got the opposite side. Let's roll for an omen. What would prompt us that we are up against some demonic presence? 5. Brimstone and meat, rust and excrement. Yep, there's definitely a demon here. Oh, we have to roll for some aspect, don't we? Let's see what we get. And again, a 4 and a 5. A bull. Bull rampage. Okay. Is it some kind of mechanized bull? But maybe it's mechanized bull with fire in its eyes and steam coming from its flared, fiery nostrils. Horns are rusted. Lots of pooping. So what do we have? A brute. Petty nobility. Oh, silver tongue. Okay. Yes, the insidious cinder beast. And a peer. We have fae. Fairies, spirits, creatures of supernatural nature. They've got a good selection here. So, a sapling sprite. Questing tree. I'm looking at the vigor on all of these to see what it would take. So that questing tree, I'm seeing that as an ent of some kind. Again, even though it talks always about crypts, your crypt could be the case of a dark forest, couldn't it? So that's where we can get our evil ents. Mechanists, intelligent machines, creatures of absolute law or logic. What do we have? Automata. I can't even say the next one, I'm going to skip that past. Void-hearted, the grim, the accursed, creatures of dark or death. Maybe the crypt goes below a massive tree and you walk through the roots. Oh, that's an interesting one. Yes. That's kind of looking at it upside down, isn't it? I like that idea. That's a good idea. I like that one. Oh, too far. So we've got the Dread Captain and the Grim. Again, 30 seems to be around the average on quite a lot of these, though we did get a 50, didn't we? So we have moods, different moods for the types of creatures we might meet. Abominations, ethereal, arcane. Let's oh, skeletons. Where was our zombie? Can we find our zombie? We got ghouls. I feel like the ghouls, the hungering moods, let's go with that one. Because I can imagine our zombie. What was how was it feeling? 1. Unfulfilled. I don't like being a zombie. But we can have our omens. Ah, so here's where we might have got the omens from. Okay. And that's a 4. Chewing and tearing of food, otherwise gentle panting and hungry moans. Oh. I mean, it's a bit cliched, but hey, nothing says a zombie than a bit of a hungry moan, doesn't it? So, yeah. So that's cool. So those ones where we didn't see omens, they're included here. So that's good. I like that. We got plenty, haven't we? Wow. Okay, so in the Cryptdiggers guide, there were 44 adaptations that you could use to build up a unique monster, all the different abilities it might have. But now, in this Hunter's Guide to Monsters, there are an additional 100. So you pretty much should be able to make any kind of monster that you can think of. Cleaving blows. Doppel monster. Face taker. Oh gosh. Falling to bits. If the monster takes 4+ damage, parts of its body falls off and animates with the following stats. So you could chop its arm off, and its arm could then come at you, trying to attack you independently. Like it. That's brilliant. Iron Whisper. Reality betrays you. Stat checks made in the same or an adjacent zone require a D3 roll determining which stat the check uses. Okay, so you can't rely on what would be the typical. You're going to be randomized. Alright, that's cool. A hand that crawls towards you. Yes, jumps up and tries to grab your throat. That's quite funny. There was a bit of... I mean, again, it might be horror, but we should have a little bit of comedy in there as well, shouldn't we, yeah? Oh, number 95. Will it never die? When the monster's vigor is reduced to 0, it becomes 1 instead, and brawn is reduced by 1 to a minimum of -1. That's naughty. This is one that just keeps on going and going and going until you've absolutely annihilated it. So 100 different adaptations that your monster can have. So Beasts of the Crypt. New monsters to use in your game. Okay, so this is part of the bestiary. We have a bog troll, and Chaos Enforcer, and Corpse Drake. Is that like it? That's a dead dragon, isn't it? I guess. Druids of the Deep. Knight of Tumors. Vigor 36. There's a lot of 36s here. Oh my goodness. Vigor 60, the Lion Hydra. Wow. So this is one where you really do need multiple players or multiple characters at the bare minimum to be able to take on this. So again, it makes me think of a little bit of, you know, that sort of Monster Hunter setting where you've got multiple players all surrounding the monster, all trying to get the final killing blow in. I think there's an element of comedy here, isn't it? As you know, this great party of about 20 of you going through this crypt, making all the noise, letting everybody know that you're there. Could be quite amusing. Oh my goodness. There we go. Wow. That is some Hydra. That's a nice piece of art. I like that. Oh, too fat. Okay, slightly easier. A worm at 40. So yeah, we got a good selection of creatures here, and that's great, isn't it? Because I guess ultimately, as you're playing this with your friends, it is going to be down to the kinds of monsters that you meet. That's what people are going to remember. And a little bit of the dungeon crawl aspect. We were taking a look last night, weren't we, at the actual sort of dungeon layout. And regulars to the channel might remember, I had a little bit of a go at, I'm just going to bring that over to the camera, hopefully you can see, just doing little dungeon sections of artwork. Obviously this is much larger, this is actually to allow a figure to stand on it. But if I was to use this book, I could create my little dungeon here and make my little maps. So, yeah. I think that that's going to be a lot of fun. If you like designing a unique monster, designing your caverns, your dungeon, your little passageways to go through. And again, it's that sense of the sort of Diablo dungeon exploring. I think that that's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks, Roger. Yeah, no, I've not had as much time to do it as I did initially, but I hope to get back to it. I really do enjoy making the little dungeons, just letting my imagination. But this is actually what's been very, very cool about these books is thinking about, well, why? What's the purpose of the dungeon you're doing? Because if it's not natural and somebody built it, well, why did they build it? What was its usage? And then when you identify that, well, okay, if this is a room, well, what kind of room is it? And then what rooms would come off from this room or lead to this room? Maybe, you know, have some reason for how things are. So I found that very interesting as I was reading through. Vampires. Ah, so that vampire actually is not too bad. We could take on these vampires. Oh, centipedes, swarms of insects, packs of rats. What was it built for, and what is it being used for now, 100 years later? Yes, again, think of the Mines of Moria. We know that the dwarves built the great city, but of course the dwarves fell, and it's now infested by goblins that do not use it for the purposes it was built. And you would see evidence of goblin infestation as you progress through its great halls. Okay, so what do we have here? We then have creatures that are built of magic. The Bone Thief. Again, this is where, as the Doomsayer, you can really have a lot of fun creating just something really strange, really weird and wonderful. Or, you know, you could maybe, if there was a creature that you have seen in other popular fiction, you could use the rules to bring it to life. You could have your alien in a fantasy setting if you wanted to. And then finally, monster crafting. So just like we spoke about Monster Hunter, once you have slain your beast, then maybe from its carcass you can craft potions or poisons or treasure. And so it concludes with sections on this, some investigation and research, and then creation, before going on to the actual crafting, which could be a lot of fun. I know some people like to do the crafting, don't they? And there we go. That pretty much brings us to the end. Move this out of the way. So, there we go. That was The Hunter's Guide to Monsters. But we also looked at The Doomsayer's Guide to Horror and the Cryptdiggers' Guide to Survival. As I say, the link to the game Best Left Buried is in the video description below. You can get the PDFs at a very reasonable price. So if you did like what you've seen over the course of a week, then do go and check it out. As I said at the top of the show, our thanks to Soul Muppet Publishing for providing the books for this evening. That's been a lot of fun, and certainly a lot of the things that I've read there has really got me thinking. So maybe this weekend I'll try and do a little dungeon. Yeah, let's see how we do, because that does work out rather nicely. Because next week, all being well, on Tuesday, we're going to be heading back into dungeons. We're going to be looking at 2D6 Dungeon, which is a solo player dungeon crawler in the classic style of dungeon crawling. So I think we're well set to experience that game, to learn some new rules, and to see how it presents dungeon crawling for a solo player. So that's going to be fun. Yeah, says Roger. And you're saying this is a good set and goes well together. You can purchase the Best Left Buried all as one complete collection, which has a hardcovered book. So that could, be a more preferred way of getting them, or you get them individually, as you can see. Right, there we go then. Thank you so much, Roger, for joining me this evening. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. But until then, bye for now.